This meeting to order, and if I could get a volunteer for invocation or a moment of silence, whatever you'd like. Being that there's none, I will lead a quick prayer, and we'll take a brief moment of silence beforehand, and then we'll get started. God, we thank you so much for allowing us to gather. We thank you for your blessings upon each and every one of our lives, keeping us safe, keeping us healthy. I pray that we have a productive meeting. Thank you for allowing us to do this on behalf of our city. And Lord, we just believe we all have a heart to make this city the best that it can be and make it a place we're all proud to call home. So we thank you again. We pray in your name. Amen. Amen. Felicia, if you'd like to do the roll call.
Yes. Amy Bauer. Christian DeMond.
Present.
Tara Humphreys.
Present.
Elvira Johnson. Washia Lancaster.
Present.
Tracy Lewis.
Present.
Stephen McFarland. Gregory Robinson. Sergio Sanchez. And Maya Thompson.
Present.
Oh, thank you. Just have a few announcements before we move on. First, I'd like to thank our city manager, Timothy Salmon, for being with us this evening. And secondly, at last month's commission meeting, I failed to announce that the commission members carried out its election proceedings via email, and as a result, Christian DeMond was named as chair, and Maya Thompson was named as vice chair. Next, I'd like to announce that Mrs. Hiawatha Jones was recently appointed to the City Council, so she's no longer a member of the commission, which leaves one vacant seat. At next Monday's council meeting, the council will be discussing filling the vacant seat as well as appointing a council member to the commission. Last announcement that I have is the statewide Human Relations Commission meeting, which was scheduled for Tuesday, March 30th, has been postponed. Mr. Gene Troy from the state office will notify the commissions when the new date will be for the statewide meeting. And that's all I have. I'm sorry, our city manager would like to share a few things, so I'll turn it over to him before we get started. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. I want to welcome you to your retreat, and thank you for your service. Christian asked me to speak for a moment on an issue. I understand there are some commission members' concerns about serving both of these missions, which is the relations and development aspect of it. I understand you had a gentleman here that told you there was some conflict of interest, and I can understand that aspect of it. So if you all decide that you want to recommend to council that this commission should be split into a community relations and a community development aspect, that's completely up to you to do. As you know, the council members appoint you all to this commission. The director, we currently are looking to fill the director of community relations and development, as well as the specialist of community relations and the specialist of community development are here as liaisons for you to the city to help you do what your job is as you determine it. So I'll leave that up to Christian and the board to figure out what they want to recommend to council, and we'll take that forward. On Monday night, as Felicia did say, we will try to get you an appointment both from the council that has a council member that would be a representative to your board, as well as fill the seat that Ms. Hiawatha Jones has vacated due to her selection in being a council member. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and otherwise I'll turn it over to your retreat.
I do have one question.
Yes.
Are we able as a board to make a recommendation to council on who that we would like to see appointed? To serve
Yes,
as a
I believe you already have made a recommendation to replace your commission member. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that, and also I'm wondering if it would be appropriate for us to make a recommendation of the council member to be appointed as an ex officio member.
I think you would want to leave up that to council and let them decide
Okay.
who they would want that to be. Okay? All right. Thank you, and enjoy your retreat.
Okay, we'll move on to old business, and we want to approve the meetings from our February 9th meeting, and we will do that with a motion to approve. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And who made the first motion?
Steve.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. All in favor to approve the meetings of our February 9th meeting? Raise your hand or say aye.
All right.
Any opposed?
I'm sorry, Christian, who offered the second?
Ms. Sarah.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so our old business is approved. And at this time, I'd like to move to the next item and introduce our retreat facilitator. Thanks so much for being here, taking time out of your evening to be with us. This is Natalie Kemp. She's been a resident of Wayne County for almost 25 years. She's raised her 2 children with her husband here in Goldsboro. It is on, yes, sir.
Is that working all right for you back there? Sounds a little different than some others.
She has raised her 2 children with her husband right here in Goldsboro. She's a licensed psychological associate, and she has worked in various settings that have served the community. She started as a staff psychologist at Wayne County Mental Health, working with children and families. She was able to serve as a health services director at Wages. She's worked with the Wayside Fellowship Home for Women and the City Mission Men's Shelter. Most recently, she's been serving as an assistant professor and department chair for psychology at the University of Mount Olive. Thank you, Ms. Kemp, for being here.
Sure, thank you for having me. All right, so I guess Felicia has asked me to help kind of facilitate this, so this is your work. And I'm just kind of going along and making sure everybody kind of stays on task and doing what needs to be done. So we're just going to kind of,
The down arrow.
oh, I was hitting the wrong one, okay. So the first thing that you're being asked to discuss is what are the issues in Goldsboro. And so kind of looking at the top 7 and then maybe narrowing down to 5.
So the extra handout, let me just insert here, Natalie. Back in 2018, the State Human Relations Commission conducted a survey from local North Carolina commissions, and these are the results of issues that were identified. So I just want to provide this as a reference.
Okay, would anybody like to start?
I would say housing as one, and education. That's the 2 I'm offering.
Homelessness, particularly in the Spence Avenue area by Walmart.
I'd say access to affordable health care.
Community police relations.
I'd like to add one, and I feel like this is more of an upstream issue, but just the fact that I think it is a major issue that our city doesn't have a strategic plan. And I think if we had a strategic plan, I'm not saying every one of these issues, but I believe the majority of these issues would be solved or greatly helped as a trickle-down effect of having that strategic plan.
Christian, if I might interrupt, we do have a strategic plan. I'm not sure what type you're talking about, but we can make sure that you have access to that and your commission does.
Okay, yeah, and that's something, this is a strategic plan for development. We have one of those too.
Are you talking economic development or what? Community development?
Economic and community development.
Yeah. Okay.
This was something that at retreat that his name evades me now. He did a presentation with VGDC,
Yes.
and he recommended that we have this type of strategic plan put in place.
That was a specific economic development plan.
Yeah. So I would say that would be at least a top one or top two issue.
Okay, thanks.
So we are listing the need for a strategic plan as one of the issues?
I think an economic strategic plan, if that's the key, if that's the one that we're missing, that was recommended that we have.
I would say jobs, a job that offers the citizens a living wage, a fair living wage. I think, of course, it's going in the media about minimum wage, increase, $7.25. No one can probably live off of that. So, more jobs that offer better pay.
All right, so that seems to be set. Is there anything else? Anybody feels really pressed?
Well, there's quite a few abandoned buildings in Goldsboro. For example, old Charity Hospital building is just sitting there. There needs to be something done with that, and that kind of like coincides with homes.
Okay. All right. So the top 7 that I'm hearing is 8, housing, education, homelessness, access to affordable health care, police relationships with the community, strategic plan for economic and community development, jobs for a fair living wage, and abandoned buildings in our community. All right, so we're being asked to narrow down to maybe the top 5 that we can focus on.
Police relations with the community.
I definitely think housing is definitely one of the top 5.
Okay.
Homelessness, especially for women.
And the building.
Education.
Yes.
I'm wondering, when we are looking at narrowing these down, are we thinking about things that the city can do? Because there's a division in what cities do and counties do, and social services are typically county functions, and that includes education, social services, healthcare, those kinds of things are county functions versus the city, the municipal functions. So are we looking at them realistically in what we would like our city to do, or what we think are the biggest problems right here within our city limits? How do we do this?
I think you make a really valid point. So the homelessness and housing, I think that's something directly the city. Police relations, definitely with GPD. Education, I think, would be something broader that would probably be a county issue or a Wayne County Public Schools issue. So, if it's okay, I think we can take education off the list in favor of putting something more city-focused that we can work with council on to address. I would recommend a top 5 that number 1 should be the economic strategic plan. Just because, like I said earlier, I feel like if we have something solid like that we're working to and working out, the trickle-down effect will be dealing with the issue of homelessness, abandoned buildings, and
Are you guys in agreement with that?
What are you suggesting is your top 5? Economic plan?
economic plan and economic plan, homelessness would be in my top 5. I put a post out on Facebook just asking for the city to chime in, and almost every single person that commented, homelessness was a major concern and issue of theirs. So I would say, those would be in my top 5. Probably number 1 would be that plan, because I feel like if you don't have a plan, you're just working yourself in vain. But if we had a plan to follow, then everything else would kind of fall into place. But police relations, I think that would be a solid top 5. Housing for sure.
In regards to police relations, our police officers subconsciously profiling citizens of Goldsboro, in particular minorities. Minorities are more likely to get stopped if there are 2 or 3 in a car as opposed to white folks. And I don't know if they have a training program or any new schooling that they have to go to, but that is a major problem because it's too often that black youth, especially male and then female as well, are stopped more often than their white counterparts. And unfortunately, that's not a problem just in Goldsboro. That's a problem nationwide, as exhibited by the invasion of the Capitol in Washington. That was only created and brought on by, and I hate to say racism, but once again, that remains to be an issue in America even in 2021. And how can we have confidence in the police if you're stopping me but you're not stopping him? Or if I'm more likely to be killed by you than he is or she is. So we have to make sure that our police force in Goldsboro is just that. It's a police force to serve and protect all, not just a group of people. We cannot continue to live in a society where people of color are treated differently, any differently by the police than white folks. We can't, our democracy won't exist if this problem persists, and it's nationwide. Who storms the Capitol of Washington, D.C., our seat of power?
I suspect that what you're talking about is more pernicious than just law enforcement. And I wonder if it fits under a larger category of diversity relations or however we say race relations, because I'm sure it isn't, although it's very visible with our law enforcement. I think that there are other groups that are probably also discriminating, that we're not seeing it as much. It's not as visible because people aren't getting killed because of it. But I think there's a larger problem that we need to address, and I think that fits exactly within community relations.
So community relations in general.
But, and maybe Christian has a better way of phrasing that, but I think we have a bigger problem to tackle in general, not just race, but lots of diverse groups that are being discriminated against them from lots of organizations and agencies.
I think that I can say that, the Goldsboro Police Department is really making an effort to hire, more people of color. I know they had kind of put out, feelers for those who are interested, in joining the police department. I really think they're making an effort to kind of, to widen the scope, so it doesn't just seem like it's one particular race. I mean, I think they really are trying, but of course, as you said, it can always be better, but I really think they are you know, making, you know, in ways that they can, are, you know, trying to hire others so that we can have more people who look like us in our community. And I really think that's, you know, I commend the police department for that. I have noticed that.
Well, the hiring of the diversity of the police force is a good thing, but the profiling and the abuse are not coming from officers of people of color. And it you know, I'm not saying it doesn't happen in instances, but it's, you know, I don't care how many people you hire, people of color, if you have other officers who are profiling people of color, it really doesn't matter. Because your problem is not a black cop stopping you or profiling you. Your problem is a white cop stopping and profiling you, pulling you out the car, throwing you on the ground, and automatically assuming that you got drugs, gun, or one.
All right, I agree.
And we can't continue to expect society to be complacent to that.
Right.
And what you're gonna have is anarchy, because once you lose confidence in the police force, which is the authority to protect and serve you, then what do you have? You have a breakdown in society, just like you saw in Washington, D.C.
I think,
So, Mr.
it's a good point about, maybe community relations as a whole as well. You know?
Yeah, so my suggestion, Mr. Farland, is I think we're in the process of trying to decide on the topic of what the 5 categories are going to work into. And I think with this being said, it looks like you want to be the chair of the police and the police
Police relations?
police relations committee. So then therefore we can look more into it. I think, like you said right now, I think we're just trying to get to the topics, to choose the 5 topics, and then we can move into more of the details of it.
So are we in agreement that education is something maybe that's more in the realm of the county, and that would not be considered in our top 5?
I think so.
You agree with that? Okay.
I think so.
All right, so then we're just trying to find one more to maybe make the cut, right? What about jobs? I don't know if that's more city, county, is that similar?
That's everywhere, yeah, because that's a private sector anymore. Although certainly we have economic development commissions and downtown DGDC that impact that. That's everybody.
Yeah.
So
When economic development encompasses abandoned buildings that are left vacant in Goldsboro, like, once again, the old Cherry Hospital, it's just sitting there. And what are we gonna do with that? We're just gonna just let that sit there and decapitate, or, you know, can that be used to maybe house the homeless? You know, living in Atlanta for 24 years, they had, you know, buildings like that they turned into and transitioned into homeless shelters. They were maintained and controlled. Obviously, there's rules and standards, but just to let those buildings just sit there and do nothing with them, I think it's just, you know, it's just a waste. And they can be easily converted into situations where the homeless, you know, let's get them out of the woods over there on Spence Avenue.
So could that be part of that strategic plan that you're talking about?
I think something like that would be addressed with the, well, you know, talking about, and maybe Felicia or Tim can answer this, somebody, is that building, what you mentioned, the hospital, is that in the city limits? Or is that in the county?
It's county, and that's owned by the state.
Yes.
It's owned by
Oh, okay.
the state.
There were negotiations at
Yeah.
one point between the Salvation Army and I guess the state, was the city involved in that? There was some talk, and I
Mhm.
don't know
Yeah.
whether that just broke down completely because of the condition of the buildings or what, but I know it has been looked at for that, but it is a state building.
I think that something, regardless, there are other buildings that are dilapidated, and I think those would be encompassed in an economic strategic plan. Maybe one of the issues that we put down on this list to consider is collaboration between the county commissioners and city council, the county entity and the city. Just thinking, it was just voted up a new percentage increase by the county for sewer and water. If there was, they speculate the city was going to do it anyways, or they were just doing it in preparation. But I think if there was a more collaborative effort intentionally made, and I'm sure there are by the city and the county, but maybe with education being on the list and county buildings initiatives in the county, maybe that is an issue that we say we just want more county and city collaboration.
That's kind of a side note, not one of the top 5, Christian.
So our top 5 then is looking like an economic
Mhm.
community development plan, homelessness, access to affordable health care, the relations between community and police, and housing. Is that what we're saying is our top 5?
I thought employment was,
I'm wondering if housing and homelessness are hand in hand.
I sort of wondered that too.
But we
Yeah.
need
So
more
housing,
affordable.
homelessness?
We
Yes.
don't have affordable housing. That's one
so
thing.
they should be kept separate.
I would say.
Housing and homelessness separate?
Would you- If you wouldn't mind, Ms. Kemp, would you pull your microphone down a little bit?
Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay. So economic plan, homelessness, housing, healthcare, and then jobs.
And I just want to throw this out there, but if we put on our top 5, the economic strategic plan, would that not include affordable housing? Do you think that would encompass that? Or if it's a collaboration with the county?
That's the expert, that's the sort of thing that would be.
I think your jobs and your economic development plan might go together, and your housing and your homelessness might go together if you're trying to put like items and limit, as you narrow down to 5. But we'll take a look into all these issues that you bring about. This is in my mind, a brainstorming session to get your concerns on the table, and then we can, build subcommittees on these and get city employees involved, department heads, etc.
Because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking more strongly that we need in the top 5 that collaboration with the county and the city.
Can somebody give me a definition of affordable housing?
There is one that's related to what certain percentage of.
It's 30% of your income.
Yeah.
So basically it goes with 30% of your income, and then sometimes you have your tax credit properties or your Section 8 properties, and that's 30% of your income. Basically, that would normally go by.
So if I'm making $7.25 an hour, which is the current minimum wage, which is ridiculous, 40 hours a week, I'm making $300-400 a week. If that minus taxes and all that, what kind of affordable housing can I afford?
Well, sometimes your rent, it depends on if you live in public housing, the minimum rent is $50. And so your rent can be between $50, I have seen rent at $32, like if you look at Jefferson Court, there are normally some tenants there with 0 rent, or $32, or it can be, it can range up to a maximum. And so it's the maximum income, and so some of them have maximum income as well. So sometimes you can make over $32,000 a year. And if you look at the new one out there on Rosewood, in the Rosewood area, that is a tax credit property. So it has a minimum income and a low income, and so therefore you can't be over a certain amount of dollars of income.
So what is the question with affordable housing, that if we have what you just said, are we trying to increase neighborhoods or areas that will provide those same benefits, or are we saying that we don't have enough of those areas, or because if it's $0, $30, or $50 a month, then, okay, that's affordable housing, but what is our question about affordable housing if we have that available to the people?
We don't have enough.
We don't have enough.
So it's the amount, we don't have enough of those kind of areas.
Gotcha. We don't have enough, and if you look at the housing authority, they are buying more properties, but they also are turning down some of their older properties. If you look like Lincoln Homes, who now is half of the amount, is a little bit half than what it used to be. And so if you look at those areas, and then you have private owners who come in and do who are part of the city, who will do tax credit properties that have affordable properties, like I said, like the one out there in Rosewood area.
Okay, so.
And just, I don't mean to interrupt, but if we can just narrow down the top 5, if you'll flip over, you'll see that each issue that we're gonna dig into each issue and discuss why it exists in the city.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay, I was supposed to go there. So are we looking to then combine perhaps homelessness and housing and then put in,
I don't know, I think that's a separate issue.
or keep it separate?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so yes. Okay, so,
Because homelessness can also be jobs.
yes, all right, so, yeah, all right, so the 5 that we're gonna focus on then, economic plan, homelessness, housing, healthcare, and jobs. Is that correct?
Want to do it one more time, please?
Okay, so economic plan, or strategic plan, homelessness, housing, healthcare, and jobs. And so what we're going to do next is just pick one issue at a time and discuss it a little further. So this is what they're asking us to do. So are you wanting to start with the strategic plan as your first issue?
Actually,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm not sure about this.
Ms. Carol, can you speak in your mic?
And Colleen.
You know, you mentioned one thing earlier that I just, on the human relations side of it, there's many different people groups that are being excluded, and I don't know if you're going that way.
Yes,
but-
I am.
Yeah, I'll let you.
I don't even know how to phrase it, but I feel like the police relations, just tackling discrimination in all its forms. We're seeing.
I would say, when you say community relations, I thought that was.
Yeah, that sounds so soft. Christian, you're good with these things. Yeah.
I definitely agree with you, and you know, I'm trying to think. We have such a great we have a great 5, but and I know we can make some subcommittees out of these, and this might be one that we make a subcommittee out of. You know, before we move on and start discussing the issues, but.
Or do we want to just have 6? Because I feel like.
But Felicia, can we have 6?
Well, if this helps, this is a thought I had before starting. Regarding subcommittees, I know, like I said, the top 7, then narrowed down to 5. And then initially I was thinking a subcommittee for the top 5, but for the sake of the size of the commission, with currently now being 10 members, I was going to suggest maybe not negating or disregarding any of the issues, but just to start forming maybe the top 3 issues, and then forming 3 subcommittees, again, for the sake of the size of the commission. And I think having 3, then we can safely say that a member can serve on 1 or maybe 2 at the most, with keeping in mind the demands on everyone's schedule already. And again, thinking of subcommittees, we're talking about an extra meeting, just extra time added onto our already busy, demanding schedules. So just something I want to throw out there, just consider maybe starting with just the top 3 most pressing, and then forming subcommittees and going in that direction.
I feel like our, community relations. And if we are ignoring all the groups in the various ways that they are not served by, whether it's government or agency, or they are discriminated against, or, and that fits, police relations fits in that as well. I just feel like we can't ignore that and be true to what we're supposed to do.
Could we take healthcare off and make that more for the county to deal with and put diversity?
I'm glad you
It
said
seems that we could do that in healthcare.
Yeah.
Because that's a state of, countrywide issue in the county.
Yes, I just feel like it's too important right now to leave that on the table.
And so we can just put in as a top, as one of our top 5, just a broad human relations.
Community relations, to include diversity.
Yeah, inclusion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in our bylaws, just to promote the
Diversity,
inclusivity.
anti-discrimination, however, before this is over, we'll know exactly what to call it.
Mhm. Okay, so Ms. Kemp, just running down economic strategic plan, homelessness, housing, human relations, community relations, and jobs.
Okay.
Okay.
And so we're sticking with 5, Felicia?
We're sticking with those 5.
Okay. Because you said 3, so I was like, okay.
Well, when it comes to forming the subcommittee, then maybe we can combine, as Tim suggested earlier,
Okay.
maybe we can combine some of these things.
Right. So what we're going to do next is, we have listed out each issue, and then we can discuss it, and then just kind of after that, would be breaking down into those subcommittees. So, okay, so the first issue would be that economic strategic plan altogether.
Well, since we discussed housing, we had such an awesome breakdown from our HUD expert down there, Mr. Mayel. Can we consider already having had discussed housing and the need for affordable housing
Well,
for the sake of time?
I think that's good. One of the points I wanted to make in that discussion, though, was the talk of splitting this board up, because that would fall under, when you're talking about the HUD dollars and the HUD complaints, I mean, you're talking about more of the development side. And so I guess before we call it shut on that, I think we should talk about what we think about that.
Well, one thing that the commission may have not have been as clear on is that fair housing does fall under human relations. Just the Fair Housing Act itself, not HUD-funded programs, community block grant, but just fair housing. So what Manuel was mentioned or discussed earlier, that falls under fair housing. So that's a subject that the commission can address and focus on, just the Fair Housing Act. And I'll definitely provide some information. I have some from the state office, the state human relations office, about fair housing.
Felicia, maybe Felicia could better describe what that conflict of interest was?
With the community development?
Yes.
Okay, so the state advisor just kind of suggested that there's no other human relations or community relations commission in the state that entertains community development as well. So City of Goldsboro is unique in that this commission has been kind of restructured to focus on community development as well as community relations. So we has been recommended that the commission is split. And again, as City Manager mentioned earlier, there are some members who just kind of didn't sign up for community development initially when applying to serve on the commission. So again, that's why we're having the conversation of not entertaining the community development aspect of things on this commission. So hopefully that decision will be made soon. Again, with some new directors hired and brought on, they will be making that decision first and foremost, hopefully.
And didn't it have to do with the fact that community relations could advocate for people needing affordable housing? And that would bump up against the other part of it, which would be making decisions on the dollars for.
Well, that's the way to look at it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it, yes.
Well, my question is affordable housing limited to a single parent household? Or are we talking about a husband and wife, or a mother and two kids, or one kid? Who would qualify for what quote unquote affordable housing is? Who can live in Lincoln Homes? Who can live in Alpha Homes? What do we have guidelines?
Yes, there are guidelines, and it's by HUD, and again, each development has its own guidelines to who can qualify. Like you just have some elderly-only facilities, and then you have some that are family, multi-family. So it doesn't matter if you have 12 kids, as long as you don't, if it's a 4-bedroom unit, if it's a 3-bedroom unit, you don't have to be a single individual or just a single mother. You can be a single father or a family of 2, husband and wife. Again, it's an income requirement, not so much as if you're, a single mom with 3 kids or whatever it may be. It's a multi-family development, and then you have different developments like your elderly developments that are also affordable. Again, it's based off income requirements.
Income for the family.
Yes, income for the family.
Now, and how is this information communicated to the community? How do people know what the qualifications are, if they're even qualified? How
They will
is
receive,
information put out there?
again, when they apply, they're supposed to receive a tenant selection plan. And basically, that's what that community have developed, that organization, that management have developed, and gotten approved by HUD or the tax credit program. And so they get a tenant selection plan, and they describe all what how they will qualify and how they are chosen with a tenant selection plan after they've given their application, or sometimes while they're having their application, they'll get it. It's called a tenant selection plan.
Okay, and so if I'm in need of that, where do I get the information from initially?
Again, you'll just have to apply, or there's some people in the community that can assist you. Again, or like I said, I'm sure there's different resources. I mean, you got Salvation Army, you got different places that would assist you, churches, your local churches, and just getting the right information is basically what is needed.
Felicia, part of what a community relations specialist is helping people get in touch with those organizations, correct?
Yes, that's part of one of my many duties day to day, yes.
And so have we transitioned and started talking about housing now as an issue?
I think we're talking about housing. I initially asked if we could kind of move on, but then Christian added. It was very necessary that you insert that there, Christian, so, yeah, very, very good discussion. I'd like for us to be able to, move through, so we're down to an hour and 15 minutes.
I guess what we should just say is that I suggest that we just wait until the new director is hired. I think that is the smartest for us to do, and take our direction from how the director sees the commission's going. If they think it's easier that we split, then we talk about that and we make the recommendation to council. And if they want to keep it together and run both, I think it would be smarter to just wait and hear from who that person is and what they see, and then talk about it a little bit more then. Does that sound okay to everybody?
We're just regarding housing, right, Christian?
I think regarding housing, yeah, because it is encompassed in that development portion. And I say all that to say that I think I think maybe some of your questions are valid, because we just should do a better job moving forward with communicating on the development side, and especially if they stay together on the relations and the development, or whatever our board's focus is. We have to do a better job communicating and being public with what's going on.
Just curiosity, are there any vacant spots in our affordable housing right now?
When you say vacancy, wait.
Apartments sitting empty? They're pretty full all the time, aren't they?
They're pretty much full all the time. It's always a wait list. If you look at the Goldsboro Housing Authority, sometimes they have to close down their wait list to catch up on applications and stuff. Again, I mean, like you said, and on the development side, we gotta look at the housing authority is buying properties. But at the same time, we have to invite investors in to build properties as well. So that's, I mean, so we're getting, fair housing is still something that you can deal with on the affordable plan during the commissions now. Again, that's just getting out the information, again, welcoming, and then finding these homeless people to have a chance to apply and teaching them how to apply. So there are different ways that the commission can serve as affordable housing.
So the word is getting out, but there's much more need
Yes.
than.
Because the housing authority do post it in there, when they do have a wait list or closing a wait list, they do have to post it in the news articles.
Well, if we raise the minimum wage just here in Goldsboro to $15 an hour, wouldn't that eliminate some of the need for this affordable housing? Can the city of Goldsboro do that? Independently of federal government or state government? Can a city decide, like New York City says, okay, everybody in New York City, your minimum wage is $15 an hour? I mean, because, you know, if you give people the means to live on their own, they will. But if I'm making $7.25 an hour, which probably would have worked 20 or 30 years ago, you know, how can you expect me to escape poverty? But if you give me $15 an hour, I can afford an apartment paying $600 or $700 a month. You know, I mean, this is America. And, you know, it doesn't make sense, being the richest country in the world, that we are paying people $7.25 an hour to work.
Can I say something, Mr. Farland? I get what you're saying as well about the 725. Let me just, I've been doing this now for 8 years with just public housing. The problem is it's not always financially when they get in there. It's also teaching them how to stay in there. Or to grow. Because I have evicted people who couldn't pay $7 in rent. Not because they didn't have the money, because they just chose not to. And so, again, it's not so much, again, if it's affordable, there are places that can match their income that can assist them. But again, they gotta be willing to want the help as well.
Well, you can't teach grown people how to be responsible. That's something they either have or they don't have. But what you can do is give them the opportunity to be responsible. And you can do that by paying them a livable wage.
But I agree with what you're saying. I also agree with Mael. I mean, you can give someone $15 an hour, but if you don't teach them how to use it responsibly, no matter how much you give them, they'll be in the same situation that they're currently in. I think education is a big piece, you know, financial literacy, having someone sit down and set up goals with the, you know, with the resident. I really feel that's important. The money, yes, having $15 an hour would be awesome, but you still need to know how to use it to better your situation. So I don't think it's just the money. I think education has to come along with that.
Financial education can't start when you're an adult.
For some people, though, it has to.
Well,
Some
what I'm
people,
saying
they get it before adulthood, so then.
I understand that, but why don't we have courses when you are a junior or a senior in high school that you can take that, you know, most minorities don't have the exposure of checking accounts, savings accounts, or financial responsibilities, because most of the time their parents don't have the money to be to teach them how to be financially responsible. So if we're gonna start teaching people about finances, why don't we start when they're 15, 16, or 17 years old, and then when they become adults, they would already have that foundation. Don't try to tell me how to spend my money if I'm making it.
education or family. But as far as I'm supposed to be helping here, I focus on these issues.
Somebody has to do it.
All right, so housing, I feel like we have like really talked about, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do strategic plan, because I kind of feel like that might be a big one too. So the question is, why does the issue exist in our city? Like, that's what we're supposed to be kind of focusing on. So I know we've talked about housing, but let's talk about the strategic plan and why it's an issue.
So what are we calling it first? Let me, for clarity for me, are we calling it economic development strategic plan?
That's what I have written down.
Okay.
If we just for a broad issue, just said economic development, then strategic plan would be part of our action
Yeah,
under it.
I like that.
Okay.
One of our goals is to
Mhm.
assist the city in.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Okay.
So better economic development planning.
Okay. So economic development planning. And do we need further discussion on that, or is everybody?
Well, why again, Christian, does it exist? I mean, what is the need again?
I put that it doesn't exist. Why does the issue why does the issues exist in our city? Because of the lack of plan. That's what I put, and then I furthered that is because I think I could be wrong, but I believe it's a budgetary issue. It costs it's a significant investment to have a plan like that put together.
I think you want to look at it from a bigger perspective. Why are you asking for it?
I'm asking for it because I think if we have a plan like that in place, it's important because the trickle-down effects of having a proper plan would
Job creation.
it would help to rectify, yes,
Quality of life.
yes, absolutely.
Some of the other issues.
So basically
Yeah.
I agree.
what is wrong because we don't have one?
Yes.
Things that need to come here.
So I think we can focus on that, but I think the development of the economic plan, certainly the responsibility that lies within the city. So it's good that it was mentioned at the retreat. So I don't know if we could go any further than just discussing or maybe making recommendations of how to assist or help the city move forward with
Mhm.
developing the plan.
I think you raising the issue is pretty important. I think you all come into agreement that that's something that you give the council feedback on. If you remember from the retreat with council, the North Carolina Department of Commerce agreed to help us with a strategic plan. Also mentioned at the last council meeting and got approval from council to hire a fellow that would help us with this type of plan. Part of what they need to do in that is to have community citizen input, so your commission can have a play in that. So I think the fact that you raise these issues is moving in that direction.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well, I wanted to revisit an initial question that I had. Does Goldsboro, the city of Goldsboro, have the power to raise the minimum wage?
We'll have to look into that. That's the question I've got written down here. So, but the sheer fact that we're at 25% poverty in this city is a pretty important fact.
Okay, anybody else want to add anything to that?
Just leading us into employment.
Let's see, so our next one that we had on there was homelessness.
Yes, issue number 2, homelessness.
Okay, wait, so I have number 1 is housing, number 2, is that not the economic development?
How I wrote them down, and this is just maybe how I took them: 1, economic development; 2, homelessness; 3, housing; 4, human relations; and 5, jobs.
Okay, I don't mean the order, I mean the order that we're now discussing.
That was what I had.
Okay,
I just figured we'd go down the list like that.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of what we're doing, yeah. So, yeah, homelessness.
okay.
Why does it exist in our city?
In regards to homelessness, would we agree that that's associated with mental illness?
Somewhat.
Not 100%.
It can be economics, it
Yeah.
can be societal, it can be personal preference in some cases.
Personal preference. That's why it's so tricky because, you know, a couple years ago when the police department did clean out the tent city on Spence Avenue, there were people living in there that they could go somewhere. They had a home. They just didn't want to live anywhere. So I think the personal preference is a big thing.
You think people choose to be home?
There were quite a few of them in the tent city that the police department cleaned out from Spence Avenue that said that they wanted to be homeless. It was a choice they were making. But I think mental illness does. I think lack of jobs probably plays into it too.
Drug addiction.
Mhm. Personal preference does all that.
If we don't have,
Some of the richest people in the world have drug addictions.
Yes, sir.
So I don't think drug addiction is necessarily associated with homelessness.
But often drug addiction
Mhm.
is related
Maybe they get addicted to
mental
drugs
illness.
after they're homeless.
Yeah.
A family could kick an addict out of the house.
Yeah, burn the bridges with families because of drugs and.
The treatment didn't work and they have nowhere else to go. They're,
I will say, I know, go ahead, Ms. Tracy, you had something to say.
we need shelters for women.
Mhm.
We don't have anything for women here, a shelter for women.
currently our shelters are, for families, are for those who are abused.
The one that we have.
Yeah, that's Wayne Uplift, right?
Wayne Uplift, the one that we have, yeah, it's just for abuse, battery, and.
There's only one in Goldsboro.
The Fordham House has a home specifically for women as well. It's, and it's right near the Fordham House as well. It's not,
It's not well known.
it's not well
They
known
take
as,
care of their own,
yeah.
yeah, very well, and they do it very well. But I know Salvation Army has wanted to expand to do women and children, but their current men's shelter only handles, is it a dozen? And right now, it's at half capacity because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then there's another local men's shelter that will charge, well, it's for substance abusers,
Okay.
but then they charge.
To make them more
Yeah, it's like $30.
responsible or to.
I don't know why, but there's a cost associated with one of our shelters.
But we know that we need.
I wish they would have put us in the sidewalks. I feel like I'm looking over to you, just,
Is there,
if you have
is
something to
there
say,
any
just throw it
assistance
out.
available for the mentally ill that are home? I mean, can we get them off the streets? Can they?
With the decentralization of our mental health organizations in the state and in the country.
So we expect people walking around crazy.
It's,
But
it's.
that's in every city. That's in every city, everywhere you go. I mean, you can identify.
Well, I mean, I understand it's in every city, but why can't something be done about it? If you know a person is mentally insane, why can't the state or local government take, give these people some help, take them off the street?
Well, good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because one thing I wanted to say under this is that I think it's safe to say every single member on council right now wants to fight homelessness. I think I'm safe in saying that. And so I think one thing that we should take a role in is advocating to them to work together to come up with practical solutions. But every one of them I've heard say that they want to fight homelessness. So,
How can you not?
yeah. Well, someone actually, I did, when I put the Facebook post out there, someone did comment and say that not every one of them wanted to, but I definitely disagree with that. I think, I don't want to speak for them, but I've heard, just from conversations I've heard from every one of them, they all have a heart and want to fight and help with the homelessness problem. That's really undeniable, so.
I think we've covered why homelessness
Mhm.
exists pretty thoroughly.
Okay, and so third on our list was housing. feel like we had discussed. Correct? Okay, so let's move to number 4, would be human relations. So why does that exist in our city?
Community, can we call it for, because it's part of the name of the commission, the department, we know from our state advisor that other commissions are referred to as human relations, but we can call it community relations.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So I thought we were calling the 5th one community relations. We had,
I had issue finding jobs.
yes, okay. I thought we had decided that the human relations was more, I guess, dealing with diversity and other issues. And then the community one was more about the jobs. Did I misunderstand that part?
No, that's what.
So human relations,
They're kind of one and the same,
Okay.
relations, community relations, but we're gonna include, inclusion and diversity, is that right?
Inclusion, equity, diversity, yes, all that stuff.
okay, so that's under community relations.
Yes.
Okay.
So that would encompass race relations.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes, yeah.
I don't see it improving. Not in the current climate and I'm not trying to be political, but not after the 4 years of Trump. I think the environment in this country has deteriorated under the last 4 years of President Trump. And I think it's going to take a bohemian effort to repair the damage that he caused. And once again, I have to refer back to the storming of the Capitol and the unwillingness of people to accept the current president as being the legitimate president. And if you have folks that are thinking that in 2021 in America, then there's only one cause for that, and that's race relations. Unfortunately, we still have people that feel like white folks are the superior beings in America, and that people of color are subservient to them. And we can't really do anything to change that behavior, but what we can do is control our police force and our government officials, who should know better, to try to get us back to a norm.
Mr. McFarland.
If we don't do that, then there will be no good race relations, not only in Goldsboro, but in America.
Well, I think we're trying to expand it, not only just race relations, right? Looking at community relations, things beyond race as well. I mean, I definitely hear your concern, but I think we're looking at diversity in other ways as well, encompassing it.
Right, and we also have to stay focused on these issues, how they pertain to our city.
Okay.
We see everything nationwide and worldwide, but I wanted to ask earlier, Mr. McFarland, if there are confirmed cases of racial profiling among the police department, are there confirmed cases of, because a few weeks ago I was asked to identify how the city of Goldsboro has handled hate groups, any kind of racially motivated attacks on certain groups, the LGBT community, and I couldn't identify any that have actually happened here. And so I was proud to say that there haven't been any known issues or incidents along those lines. So I'd just like to know if this is a valid issue in our city. Racial profiling among the police department, the other issues that you named, and you referenced kind of the nationwide issues with the storming of the Capitol, but we want to focus on what's happening here and identify why and how there are issues that exist in our community.
Well, it's a valid issue in every city in America. And if you want to get some statistics, go down to the police department and review their arrest records and compare those arrest records to folks of color who's been arrested as opposed to white folks. And also look at the sentences that are given. Compare those as well. And look at how many times people of color are stopped for routine just driving, as folks would say, driving while black, as opposed to their white counterparts. There's a whole lot of statistics you can go check. Only thing I do is go down to your local police departments. And that's what I was saying earlier. You can't control the average person. That's going to be out there. But people of authority, our local government officials, they have to be beyond that. They have to be beyond reproach. They have to look at every individual person, not as a color, not as your ethnicity. You have to look at just a person. But if you want evidence, it's all over this country, and it's all over this state, and it's all over this city.
But I guess
the police department, and like I said, just ask them to show you their arrest records, and then you'll find all the proof you need.
And Maya, let me just respond before, and then I'm gonna bow out so others can join in on the conversation. But I'm just one person. I'm not here as a city employee on the side of the Goldsboro Police Department. But what I can see, and again, I'm just one person. But I follow the Goldsboro Police Department's Facebook page, and every day I see more mugshots of white people than black. So I just don't agree that it's. Now, I'm not going to go check the records at the police department. Again, I'm going to bow the conversation. Somebody else can jump in, but I don't see that personally. And I'm not saying that as a city employee. I just don't see that. And my evidence is from those Facebook posts every day, and the police, they post every day, most of the arrests. I don't know if that encompasses all of them, but what they post is just not the same as, it's not painting that picture that you're painting.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to respond back to, I guess what she was saying earlier when she was asking the question, is I guess we're looking for more so city examples of what you have dealt with or have seen. Now, I have seen some Facebook posts of different things, but other than actual incidents that had actually happened locally, no. But Facebook posts, yes, I have seen lots of those. But I've never seen anything local, and I think that's what she was looking for, Mr. McFarland. I know we can go to like I said, to downtown and look at arrests. I mean, if you do a crime, you're gonna do the time. And so, with that being said, I think we just got to look at those instances we're looking for examples to go by that you know personally, or have seen personally, or have heard personally to go by, so then we can combat those issues.
Well, I have seen several instances where I've seen 3 or 4 black young men outside the car, dogs brought in, 4 or 5 police cars, and I'm not demonizing the police, trust me. You know, I thank God for them. But what I'm saying is, I haven't seen, 3 or 4 white males or females on the side of the road with the police with dogs searching their cars and all that. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen 3 or 4 white youth individuals sitting on the side of the on the side of the road with their hands behind their back. I haven't seen that. And I'm not saying that it's prevalent. I'm not saying it's prevalent in Goldsboro. But what I'm saying is there is a profiling situation that's not only that is prevalent in Goldsboro, but all over America. And I know this is not Goldsboro. It doesn't have anything to do with America, basically the entire problem. But it's here as well.
Gotcha.
And the only thing I'm asking is that the police force and law enforcement treat us, I shouldn't say us, but treat people of color like they treat everybody else.
Thank you, Mr.
I think we're getting, anything that, say, the police force does, or that any individual does, goes back to who they are as individuals. So if there's things that are happening wrong within the police force or any other organization, it's because of individuals and their beliefs. Within the state, there are 29 confirmed hate groups, and some of them are close by, some of them are statewide. I know there's some out of Greenville, and they are everything from Klan to Muslim to anti-Muslim to religious-based. So I think that's the sort of thing that we need to be conscious, maybe in our community, and we need to look at those biases wherever they may be. And that's, does that make sense?
It's
I'm
only,
going to offer the fact that you also want to, as a researcher, like, we have our own confirmation bias of what we see versus
Our
what
implicit
what
biases.
evidence is, right? So, and I think the thing is, again, we're just looking at why it exists, and when we break down to our subcommittees, you guys can talk about that all you want, but we need to move on. I feel
If
like
I can just interject to move us forward, I
Yeah.
think, I definitely think all of this is valid, and why does it exist? The inclusion, racial, diversity, equity issues, why do they exist in our city? I think we have to do a better job as a commission to be checking the pulse of the community, and what does that look like? I think we should consider doing more community surveys, surveying the citizens so that we actually do have a good representation of what the community thinks. It also helps them to understand that the city cares, the city wants to know, and are there issues? Yes, I think there could be, but I think there's a lot more positive that is just, we have to highlight more, and that is part of our bylaws. So I think that's something that we can commit to doing, is surveying citizens more. And Tracy just showed me a text from someone who's watching on Facebook Live that they just asked about council members wanting to fight homelessness. I've had personal conversations with council member Hiawatha Jones. She wants to fight homelessness. I believe all of them want to do, that's one specific conversation. Now, I said I can't speak for all of them, but I did say that I think all of their hearts would be to fight that. There were constituents who commented on my Facebook post that said, Councilmember Pollock, he wants to fight homelessness and put together a plan. Councilmember Matthews, she started the Blessing Box initiative. It's all over our city to help those less fortunate. I think it's safe to say, even though I haven't had a conversation with her about homelessness, that it would be her heart to fight that. I think maybe a big, broader issue would be, to answer that question, Tracy, is how do we get everybody on the same page and working towards that? I think this board can be an advocate for that and push for that, but back to the relations thing, I think we just have to do a better job moving forward of keeping our finger on the pulse so that we actually know what's going on.
And I think one of the best ways to combat hate is education, and that's part of our mission too.
And so we should do moments where we we did a human relations proclamation. We can do many other proclamations for different people groups, disabilities, LGBTQ community. So I think that's something we should also focus on. And that's why those issues arise, because we just haven't focused on it directly.
now, before we move forward, I think it's only right, Chief West, I thank you for being here tonight, for coming in and joining us. I think it's only fair to offer him an opportunity to respond to the policing. We've gone in such depth of conversation about that. So, Chief West.
Thank God. Is this on, or do I need to? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? No. I'll stand up then, if you don't mind. Just the brief time that I've been here, and I appreciate the city manager calling me to let me know, it's probably a good idea if I come out and at least listen to kind of understand what everybody's talking about, so we can kind of hit on.
Thank you.
Do I believe that the police department is involved in any kind of racial profiling or anything like that? No, I don't, but does that mean that we don't continuously look and listen to what the citizens are telling us to see if there is? We just don't throw our hands up and say, no, it's not here, we're done with it. We have implemented some training for our officers. We've implemented strategies. We've implemented software where we can track officers, traffic stop data, SBI reporting sheets, stuff like that, to where we can go back and look and kind of monitor what our officers are doing, to where if we do have complaints that we're out there racially profiling or not doing our job appropriately, we can follow up on it, check on it, and eliminate it if it is occurring. We've expanded our complaint process. If the citizen's got a complaint, how to get the complaint to the office of the chief, how to go about it, how we respond, follow. So we've put a lot of things in place, and we continue to look for ways to improve. We engage the community a lot more than we have, say, in the last 10 years. We've gotten a lot more involved in the community. COVID has kind of set us back a little bit of being engaging with the community, but we're always listening to what the public is telling us. You know, when we went through the George Floyd thing about a year ago, and you know, we were always mindful of what other cities and states across the nation were going through, and there was a little bit of a concern on our part, are we going to deal with some of the same stuff in our own community? But I will tell you, we were pleasantly surprised how well Goldsboro and its citizens responded. Did very well. A lot of cooperation from the public, a lot of help from not only just the police department, but other law enforcement agencies. So the community is doing very well. But does that mean we need to put our guard down and think everything's lovely in the world? We don't. And that's why we communicate and we get out and work with everybody. Briefly came in, heard a little bit about the homeless. Homeless has been something that the police department has been trying to work on for a long time. But what I'm finding the struggle is a lot of people want to help the homeless, but it doesn't seem like we can focus on a way to do it. There's a lot of discussion, and it kind of gets spread out to where you've got 10 or 15 organizations trying to help the homeless, and they're all kind of doing their own things independently, and we kind of get left. But yeah, homeless, it's not a crime to be homeless. But unfortunately, the police department is always called when there's issues that some people or communities can't deal with. We kind of get interjected into the middle of it. And again, homelessness is not a crime. We don't need to be involved in it as far as, you know, if I can't find somebody housing or help for them, what do? Well, the easiest thing for law enforcement to do is write somebody a citation or arrest them. But that's not fixing the problem. That makes the problem worse. So I would like to be kind of the middleman of letting the police department know what resources are available to the homeless. We're in the community every day. We can communicate with the homeless, and we can offer them what they need and kind of guide them and help them there. Think of us as kind of a partner in the community. So again, you know, that's kind of my speech at this point. But definitely would like to stay engaged with the group, and if there's anything we can do, you know, by all means, let us know and stay engaging with us. And, you know, and together we're going to move this community forward. But I think overall we've got a very good community, and we're very mindful of that, and we respect that, and we're going to do what we can to keep moving forward.
Thank you, Chief.
Quick question for you. How diverse is the police department in Goldsboro?
How diverse? Probably about 14% minority. That's kind of off the top of my head. I don't have the figures in front of me.
Just 14%?
Just 14%.
Why is it so low?
Up from 8%.
Sorry.
What was your last question,
I
sir?
said, why is it just 14% diversity?
We don't have a lot of people applying to be the police.
Have you recruited?
Yes,
in
sir.
minority communities?
We have recruited. Can we do a better job of recruiting? Absolutely.
Chief did say it is up from 8% though, that 14%. And you guys just hired a friend of mine, Josh O'Fair. I think he'll do great. And we need 20 more young men like him, so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do believe that, you know, the department needs to reflect the community. I've always believed that, but it's very hard to get the community. It seems very hard to get the community involved in wanting to be the police. We recruited with it. Can we do better? Yeah, we can do better. Because COVID has kind of slowed us down from our recruiting efforts. But yeah, I do believe that we need to recruit from within the community because they have a vested interest in this community. They're not, we recruit somebody from out of town, they're going to come in and give you 2 or 3 years, and then they're going to move on to another agency. We need to hire people from within the community that know the community, that want to stay in the community, and that's where our goals are. But, you know, we're
Thank you.
Is it, one more question, I'm sorry.
It's
Okay, and then we need to move on to
Is
the
it
jobs.
possible to do a high school recruitment thing?
It is high school recruitment, but you can't be the police until you're 21 years of age. So I lose you from 18 when you graduate until you get 21. I lose you kind of in that 3 years. We've got to be able to stay engaged with somebody when they graduate from high school. What are they going to do for the next 3 years? We could possibly do some kind of intern or volunteerism with the police department. We've looked at that with some of our policies. But yeah, I agree. High school is where we need to be looking, but it's just what do we do to keep their interest for that 3 years stretch? That's usually where I agree.
We do have,
I lose some of the fire department too. But anyway, so yeah, but that's where we kind of lose right in the middle.
I think that intern program would be good, though. I mean, it would at least keep their interest.
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit offline. One thing quickly, with volunteers and interns, the issues that I have inside, I've got a lot of security agreements in place with what we have available, our computer systems, all that stuff. So I can't just bring a volunteer in to work for me or be an intern without getting security clearance. So that kind of limits me on what we can do, but we need to do better at that, and I hope we can. But yeah, that's where the youth is where we lose them in that little 3 year stretch. Sean, met him 5-6 years ago. He told me when I met him that he was going to be the police one day. We stayed in contact with him and followed him right up to it, and was very happy to see him come on board last month. And I think he's going to do wonderful things with it. But that's what it takes. Engage the community. If they're interested in being the police, stay in contact with them, and if they're eligible, and bring them on board.
and we do have law enforcement explorers that does engage them when they're young, and then they can continue with that through, as advisors, I think,
Correct, yes.
through time for them to go into basic law enforcement.
I would like to see that 14% increase to at least 30 in the next 5 years.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I would like to see that as well, sir.
Sounds good. All right, so our last issue that we just need to tackle, as far as why it exists in our city, would be jobs, right? So, discussion on that. Why?
Jobs is a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
You provided a lot of insight earlier about,
Yeah.
you know, the wages and.
Yeah.
This is something that I think we definitely should explore starting a subcommittee on, and getting someone like Craig Foat from Lane Community College, because he knows so incredibly much about jobs and the workforce here in the area. I think he would do us very well on that area.
Okay. So I've just kind of moved us along here to, so what we are trying to do now is form subcommittees. And is this where you're wanting to bring it down more to 3?
The top most pressing urgent 3.
Okay. So, out of our 5 economic plan, homelessness, housing, community relations, and jobs, we're trying to narrow it down to 3, and then find members, and then perhaps outside people. So, discussion on narrowing it to our top 3. You guys have done great. We went from 7 or 8 to 5. So now we got like chop to
Community relations has to be one.
Housing, I think.
Yeah,
should be
housing.
one. Affordable housing.
I think that community relations just encompasses so many things,
Okay.
and I think it's so visible right now that if we ignored that and didn't work on it now,
I would agree, it's a broad topic, so, in my opinion, I think that would be good top 3. You guys agree with that one? Okay, and then, I know I'm not supposed to be offering input, but I mean, economic plan also seems like a broad topic, for your, narrowing down to 3 areas.
I agree, housing should be, is really pressing. We hear that in many, from many different angles. If you look at it from the stock that's sitting empty and rotting, to the need for more affordable housing, to
Like including that. Okay. So, were you in agreement about economic plan then being one as well?
Because that would trick everything, that would
Trickle that down? Okay, so then we're saying our top 3 would be economic plan, housing, and the community relations. Is that correct? Okay. And so, now Felicia, if you could explain just a little further what we need to do here.
Okay, so in subcommittee number 1 would be community relations.
Okay.
Okay, And so we just need to establish which members would like to serve, who would like to chair the subcommittee, and then who from the community, individual agency that could be invited to serve on the subcommittee.
What would the subcommittee for community relations consist of? What area would we invite somebody to serve?
So the community relations, you guys, let me correct me if I'm wrong, but this will include the relations, police relations, public relations, diversity, inclusion, discrimination. It's a really big umbrella, community relations.
And so it says here chair, you're looking for a chair among the people here.
Yes, so commission member, was recommended that, one of the commission members would have to be the chair, so not an outsider.
Okay.
So,
I think we should pick somebody who's not here.
Sarah, would you be willing to be the chair on that?
I think I don't think I'm
What?
forceful enough.
What would the responsibility be?
Well, so the responsibility of the chair would be to, of course, to plan and carry out the meetings. As liaison, I would attend all the subcommittee meetings and record minutes. But the chair kind of carries it out and then will report to the commission at large once a month at the monthly commission meetings. So the chair will carry out subcommittee meetings and then report to the commission on what the subcommittee has done and accomplished every month. There should be a report.
Okay, so who is willing to do that?
I would like to be on that subcommittee.
It should be
And I'd like Tara to chair if she would,
Yeah.
if she'd agree to that, if everybody's okay.
If someone else would be my secretary, because I am the worst about that.
Well,
I
yeah,
vote for a living.
Yeah, Felicia would be.
I'm obligated to record minutes.
I would just do it.
Are you sure? Don't let him bully you.
Okay, we have Mr. McFarland. Okay. So, and then there are two more subcommittees, guys.
Okay, so Mr. McFarland is going to be
Yes.
chair for.
So he was there to serve on the subcommittee.
So, and we do have folks who are watching, who may want to.
That would be great. So if there's anyone, kind of an expert in any of these areas,
Maybe you get a chance to work offline on some of this stuff, because you've got 4 of your members that aren't here.
So are we trying to establish 3 chairs that are here tonight? And
we
then-
can hold off on the chair. As long as we get the subcommittee formed, we
Yeah.
can talk later and have someone maybe go home and sleep on it
Okay.
for a chair. Tara.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we have the majority
Sleep
here.
on it. She
The
was
majority
sleep on it.
wanted me to do it.
You could probably at least get volunteers that are here, and then you could probably think about outside individuals or agencies you want to add, and then go from there.
Okay, yes, thank you. Okay, so then subcommittee 2, Natalie.
Okay, so subcommittee 2 would be the economic plan.
Okay.
I would be interested in sitting on this committee also, on this subcommittee. And I would like to suggest we invite outside individuals. One would be Matthew Whittle at Habitat for Humanity. And then I think we could extend an invite to DGDC. And have them put someone up that they would recommend.
And Craig vote. Because
Just to qualify, DGDC, right, is the nonprofit organization. Downtown Development Department is what is a city entity. And those people help the DGDC accomplish their mission. But you need to clarify who you're asking. Do you want people from the Downtown Development Department, city people, or do you want people from the nonprofit?
Yeah, good point. I guess I mentioned them because I would like for someone with a development background, yes, also as it pertains to housing, so. I don't know, that's a good question. question.
Is this something maybe that new fellow could participate in?
You know, I think it's, I mean, you could ask for both, quite frankly, I guess.
Yeah.
DGDC and DDD people or one or the other, but
And it wouldn't have to be limited to 3 as they were needed. You
Mhm.
can call on an expert.
Yeah.
I think what you want to list there is your agencies, right? So is there anybody else you want to talk to?
And again, we may have some comments on Facebook, on the live, that we could go back and look at. But is there another commission member that'd like to serve on this subcommittee?
Are we able to be on 2 or just limited to 1? Right now?
No, I think we may need a few to serve on more than one. Again, because the commission is kind of small.
I would probably be a part.
Thank you, Washington.
Okay, and then the third one is for housing. So,
It was thought to be a conflict when I talk for housing for me. Or some other things.
I think housing might also be a habitat thing.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about housing. I'm so sorry. I had it written down housing.
the second one was.
Scratch that word and put,
Okay, so we're scratching Matt Little off of the economic plan, putting him on housing.
I think we should, put Matt Whittle, under housing.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I just had the wrong thing written down.
okay.
But yes, definitely, still keep DGDC and or the nonprofit for economic.
Okay.
Maybe someone from the housing authority, I'm not sure if that would be.
Go to housing, absolutely.
Goldsboro Housing Authority, I think would be
are you
great.
wanting to speak on housing? Are you wanting to chair it? Or would that be?
Well, I'll chair it.
Yes.
Well, will that be a conflict for you? Okay.
So you said you would like to chair it.
I'd like to be, how many of us can be on it?
If there's no limit,
I'd like to be on that.
okay, so that would be your second one, Rashida, thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, and so we are narrowing down, we have those 3, and so the next thing that Felicia has for us, there we go, is looking at some short-range goals with a plan of action, and then just so you know, there's long-range goals after that. So can you clarify specifically what are we talking about with the goals?
Okay, so what is our action plan? So how does the commission want to move forward? And I think we've already established the first short range goal will be establishing the subcommittees. Does everyone kind of agree on that? There is an extra handout, some recommendations for short-term, short range, long range.
And I know you said the first one was establishing subcommittees. Do we need to also put on there having a chair? Because some of them we don't have chairs for. Because you said we were going to
Yes,
wait on.
okay. Yes, that can be one. Okay, so how else, short range, how else do we move forward with the issues that have been identified?
I think, as we were saying before, definitely invite the community for their input.
Yes.
There's so many talented people, in the community, and, any way we can get ideas, they're our eyes, we all have our individual experiences, but hearing from others, what they experience, I think would be good.
That's good. What about for a short-range goal, scheduling the subcommittee meetings, first initial subcommittee meetings?
Mm-hmm.
And what's a good time frame you think, Christian, and everyone else?
Like a time frame to decide when to have them?
When to at least schedule the first one for each 3 subcommittees, by next month's meeting?
Yeah, I would
I have a
say.
question. Are we gonna send, how are we gonna notify the individuals that we want to, sub, like the organizations? Because some of them may say they can't do it, or how are we gonna clarify?
How about if Felicia is a point of contact on this? You all have individual discussions with your fellow commission members and determine who might want to support these committees. And then you can talk about it at your next council or your commission meeting and finalize some of these positions and support staff and such, and then make a schedule from there as to when you want to meet.
Okay,
That way you give more opportunity to the rest of your commission to weigh in.
Mhm.
That sounds like a good idea.
Thank you, Ken.
I think to answer your question, yeah, we just, by the next meeting, establish the subcommittee meetings and when they're going to be and take place. Maybe a short-range goal could be that we plan out what month would be a focus for the commission as far as a human relations standpoint. You know, is it going to be a certain people group or, you know, something like that?
What do you mean, Christian? Are you referring to the?
You know, you sent us a packet. I should have brought it with me. It was a list of celebratory months. Yeah.
Events?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that would be separate from this, though, wouldn't it? Would that just be a general work? Or would that be a?
It is kind of separate, but that's something the commission as a whole that we can discuss, or that you all can discuss at just a regular monthly meeting.
I was thinking, why I mentioned putting it as a short-range goal is because I don't know how we should plan those out. I mean, should we pick the month before, or, you know, we did the human relations one. That was the most recent one.
That was February. We did MLK, so we've done MLK. I have the list here. February, Black History, Human Relations. We did that with proclamations. March, there are none. For April is Fair Housing Month.
Mm-hmm.
We should already be working on that right now.
May would be celebrations for different cultures. International Heritage Week or Day. June is LGBT Pride Day. July, there are none. September, Latino Hispanic Month. November is Indian Heritage Month. December, International Human Rights Day.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, how can we be more visible and active in the community as opposed to just meeting here? I mean,
I think that's a good question.
how can we serve a purpose for this community if the only thing we do is just meet once a month?
And that's a great short-range goal, Mr. McFarland, is be more visible
Mm-hmm.
in the community. And the city manager has suggested and advised a few times to present to city council. That's one way.
Mm-hmm.
I like that Christian had posted on Facebook to engage the community regarding the issues in this retreat. So that's certainly another great way of the commission becoming more visible.
Could we have our own Facebook page, Felicia?
Yes, I would just have to be the administrator.
Yeah, could you?
Yes.
And we just post updates, or we post our surveys there, or, okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that would help a lot in communicating and helping people understand what we do, and keeping them engaged.
Well, is it possible, like for Easter and different holidays, that we can, you know, it's kind of like in Atlanta where, you know, Jose Feed the Homeless, where we can sponsor a dinner for, you know, we're all concerned about the homelessness and the homeless people. Why can't we sponsor a dinner on various days to go out there? We can set up something outside of Walmart, we can set up something wherever, advertise it and say, you know, here's a free plate of food.
Yeah.
Why can't we do something like that?
I think that's a great idea, and I think what Chief said earlier, there's so many organizations doing their own little thing. You know, one idea I wrote down is we need better community collaboration with fighting homelessness. And if we can get everybody, excuse me, on the same page and come up with a good, strong plan of how we're going to fight it. We used to have I don't think it was an official commission or board, but it was the Our Community Cares Board. I know the city had a representative on there, but it was made up of local organizations, nonprofits, some local churches, and we did partner with the Housing Authority almost on a monthly basis, I believe, in the summer to just do events. Maybe COVID probably would prevent us doing it exactly like we did it, but something like that board, I think, needs to come back. Probably with not so many people on there. There were so many people on that board, but just it was intentionality, showing that our police cared, our community cared, the city cared. There were so many different entities involved, and I think that would do us better than just us as a commission going and feeding the homeless one time. You know, if that makes sense.
United Way, I was going to just offer that there are so many, like you said, so many programs, like, I mean, I know I'm not supposed to add my stuff, but I work with homeless every week. So I go and I do laundry of love, and I serve at the soup kitchen. So there's all these things that are out there, and I think it would be great if you guys like partnered with what is it that they rather than because when we do it, the things that some different groups that I'm involved in, we've been doing it for a long time and we do it well, right? And so not that we can't have more input, but it's great to have somebody come alongside and help and support that rather than reinventing the wheel too. So.
And United Way has made some steps at bringing together nonprofits, so so that they will talk and either work together or at least avoid duplication. And it worked better before COVID. So
Okay,
we
so
will
definitely
certainly be a part of that.
partnerships would be another short range goal.
Strategic partnerships.
Yeah.
And what you said earlier, Felicia, just having a presence and addressing the council, is that something that we could set up a rotation for, that we just take turns going, maybe to one of their meetings at least a month and saying, here's what we're doing, here's what we're working on, here's how you can help?
Well, I would like the city manager to just kind of advise on how often, and I would say, Christian, you would be the person as the chair or Mael as vice chair to approach the city council and speak on behalf of the commission. But Tim, how often do you think?
Well, I think your committees that you're forming here need to explore their issues and bring them back on whatever schedule you do for your commission. And then from there, you need to figure out when you're ready to take it to council. And, it's not enough to bring problems. You're having your committees together to bring solutions, right? You're getting experts from the community, outside the community to come in and help you devise on the issues and some solutions and some thoughts. And then you can take it to council and provide recommendations when you're ready. I don't think you need to have a particular time. You can make it however often you want. The mayor sets the agenda and the council will take the issues. So whatever is appropriate for you all will enable.
Thank you, and I like that. Come with the solution, not just a problem.
Okay, so I have about 7 short-range goals here. Should we move on to long-term goals? Everybody good?
They may not be necessary. Well, are there any that anybody can think of? I think focusing on the short range would kind of
Like, it seems like we need to start with those.
You're right, beginning to work on the short range time, and, yeah.
I guess just one long-range goal I would see is just having that economic plan coming to fruition. And it sounds like we already have the steps in motion, but I think that would be a long-range goal that we can put down that we know we're at least working towards and can check it off when it's achieved.
Another, what I would say a long-range goal is to, when situations normalize, can we work with the school to maybe mentor some at-risk children or teenagers and maybe, try to help prepare them for life after school or something of that nature? Something to
We got a
help.
whole brand new issue to the table.
Yeah, and this community support in schools, Selena did it. She is doing an amazing work. They're having their fundraiser right now, which they can't have in person because of COVID, but community support in schools, they have success coaches in strategic schools.
Well, I would like to get involved with that, if somebody could give me that information, because once, like I was saying, if you can reach these kids early, because you don't know what the pressures they have at home and in their local communities and their peers. But I think if you can reach them early, then you can at least give them a fighting chance to make it in this world, as opposed to going to jail or dropping out of school and turning into a life of crime or something like that, that they can be productive, but they need positive influences in their life. And I don't know how much they're getting from home. Most of them, most of the time they come from single parent homes, moms working, can't keep Allen. So we need to get more involved. If we're going to be community relations, that encompasses the school system as well. And the older they get in high school, and then preparing to graduate, they need certain things taught to them that maybe, they don't have a father or figure to teach them that. My passion is for these kids, man, because I'm tired of seeing so many of them going to jail and dying at an early age. And that's a long-range goal that I would like to see this commission focus on. Let's try to get those folks some help.
Okay. All right, any other long-range plans or goals? Or are we good on this?
We'll be able to dissolve all these subcommittees because we'll be living in Shangri-La.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long-range goal.
Yeah.
Daisies.
Yeah. Rainbows, everything, sunshine. Absolutely. I think a long-range goal too can be the strategic partnerships, because that's going to be something that it's just not going to happen next week, or
Right. Yeah,
maybe it's going to take developing the relationships
Yeah,
with
we're
different
just more
organizations.
collaboration and I think even you had mentioned get the word that I was going to say, but, just being more visible too. I think that should be a continued long range goal. So you've talked about it several times in the short range, so that would be something that would be continual.
Maintaining visibility.
Yeah.
And I do think we need to go on and schedule that fair housing workshop as soon as possible, since it's coming up in April. That's something we need to
That
get.
could be a short-range goal.
Okay, and that's something the state can provide. Is that what you suggest you're referencing, Tracy?
Yeah, that's fine. And we can get people to partner.
Can it be done virtually?
Yeah, I think that's the only, maybe Mr. Troy. Now, the North Carolina Human Relations Commission, they provide a variety of training. So when he came last month, he provided Human Relations Commission's training. He also does fair housing training.
For, committee members or for?
I want this for the public.
Okay, so you like for the commission to host a fair housing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we talked about it before, but COVID.
Okay. And that's April? Okay. If that's what the commission would like, I can certainly
Investigate.
first
I think it's
thing tomorrow.
definitely needed. It's definitely needed.
Okay, and open to the community, fair housing training. We are, the commission is partnering with North Carolina Human Relations Commission to provide that to our community.
Do we need some of our local people to be part of a panel or something? So I think
Or now, do we want training, or do we just want local?
what would training be versus providing information to the public that might, what do you think? Ian?
I'm thinking information, maybe I need to say that for the public.
Yeah, the point of what's available, how do you get it? So, yeah,
So focus this on our community. Okay, so then we need local professionals. Okay. So then that would take place of next month's meeting?
And I think the best person, I know she, Ms. Tracy's daughter, she's there with, she's with Legal Aid now, right? And so I think on there, they have a person that's well that comes out and do fair housing, that can give us some information in the Legal Aid department. Because that's who will handle the residents' cases more so. Any public housing, affordable housing, which you also need just in regular life, if you're just a market renter as well. But again, Legal Aid do offer that training as well. Out of Raleigh, they can come as well to provide the information documents on how to know what is fair housing, what's going on, discrimination issues that you may face.
Okay, I attended one on Thursday, virtual legal aid, sponsored fair housing, / a whole bunch of other stuff, discrimination. They talked about the CDC eviction moratorium, and I really need to know that because there are a lot of, Wayne County courthouse has continued to process evictions despite the executive order from the governor, CDC's moratorium. So I really needed to know how legally, how they were viewing that, and really there's nothing that, they can do regarding that, but.
So this could be useful to landlords as well as the
Yes.
public who need. Do we need, okay, we got legal aid, housing, somebody from the housing authority should be part of it. Like I said, faces in our community,
Okay.
but who else?
You can ask some of these other property management groups as well. Like a lot of people think Goldsboro Housing own Jefferson Court, Alpha Ons, and when they don't own them, and so different of the management companies that offer these services will maybe bring the managers from those sectors as well. Or again, like Alpha Ons, Grand Day, and Jefferson Court is owned by the same owners. And so the management group, you can, maybe reach out to them and see if they can have someone come out, maybe their regional director, for that know what's going on in their, in their community. Because these owners are all the way in California or whatever the case may be, and they just say evict, and then.
Yeah, I want it to be someone local that they can say, you got a problem, you call me.
Right.
I'm in 919.
Okay, for local house. So let me suggest that we just focus or shoot for not having it on the meeting date, but before the month of April is up. So maybe the last week of April, this commission can decide on a day, and that gives us time to, everybody reach out to who who works in housing, who would be good for providing the information, pertinent information. So my recommendation is just to have it in April, but not to push the April meeting to decide if there are some agenda items already on the, in the words for next month's meeting, but just to plan to have it before the month of April begins.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a message from Elvira Johnson. She says a good long-range goal is to have more inclusive commission where all demographics are represented. She suggested a member of the Mayor's Youth Councils, have someone. So have a more diverse commission if possible as a long range goal. Okay, and the other thing is that because she's usually my partner in crime at the college, could she co-chair this committee with me? The community relations.
Can the subcommittees have co-chair?
I don't see why not.
If not, she should at least be on the subcommittee herself. Yeah. I know she's very passionate about the human relations side of things.
And we work great together.
Okay, so Tara, are you confirming that you will chair community relations with Ms. Elvira as your co-chair?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, ladies. They got you. Thank you.
Just a quick question, thinking outside the box, would it be possible one day to have one of our meetings in the public here somewhere?
So when you have this meeting, this is on Facebook, YouTube, I mean, what you're discussing, citizens can listen to. So whether they're sitting over there or watching on TV, you can be heard. And when you have a particular subject that you're discussing, that also is educating the public at the same time.
So, well, I guess what I was asking is, so, why did we have a meeting in Apple Homes Court? A public meeting, just, I don't, want to put anybody's safety at risk or in jeopardy or anything, but a visible meeting in a public theater.
I can answer that. It's also going to depend on space too. You got to think about the space, how many people may attend. Again, I have seen free meetings that, again, we're sitting in this meeting and only the board shows up. And so, again, with that being said, just like I said, it's just going to, like you said, we're on Facebook. I think everybody is sharing who wants to listen and chime in, or YouTube. So everybody now has some type of smartphone, YouTube, TikTok, and I'm sure they can get, just Google City of Goldsboro on YouTube.
I wasn't talking about access to the meeting, I was talking about a visible presence.
Okay, well, I know the commission discussed be more visible in the community, and Mr. McFarlane mentioned feeding the homeless, and we can certainly do activities that make us more visible in the community, but we still have to keep in mind too that the commission is governed by the city of Goldsboro, and so I know that kind of binds us to meeting within city facilities, or we have to follow, the ordinances and rules of the city of Goldsboro. And again, the city manager added that, public is invited by way of live stream, and again, we can still do community activities and things that will make the commission more visible in the community.
We're just limited on where we have the technology to.
Yeah, that too.
But this meeting was open to the public, and public could have shown up and commented. We were going to allot a little bit of time after the meeting to let anybody from the public comment, but and some did on the Facebook stream. I've had it pulled up here. Some have texted some commission members. One thing too to know that the city clerk will send out all of the public meeting notices. So if you're not on her email list, you can just email the clerk, and she'll put you on her email list every public meeting. It'll be the time, the date, and everything where it is, and that can go to anybody. So I know it's 8 o'clock.
It is 8:02.
8:02.
Well, you did great coming up with your
Yep, Ms. Kemp, thank you on behalf of everybody for taking your time. Thank you, City Manager and Chief West, for being here, and all of your input, your guidance. So thank you. And we have to take a motion to adjourn.
I motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Anybody opposed to adjourning? All right, well, thank you everybody for watching. We stand
Thank you.
adjourned.